So you finally want to make some power on your B58. I originally was going to do a two-part series, or I was going to actually do one whole video on both the B58 and the S58 setup, but I feel like that's going to probably be a little too lengthy, so I'm going to break it up into two parts. I'm a lot more knowledgeable over the B58 world, so therefore I'm going to start off with doing the B58 performance list, I guess you could say. So yes, so you finally want to make some power. I know that a lot of people are a little worried on the reliability end of these cars as far as how much power they can make reliably stock. That's typically where a lot of people stop at, is stock motor, stock transmission. Now, personally for me, I have gone through pretty much all the phases as of right now and kind of know what works best as far as how I like to go with things. All right, so to start off, you have to kind of figure out which generation B58 you have. So between 2016 up to 2018, depending on the model, M240i guys, you guys go all the way up until I believe 2022 or 2021. And then the 440s, you guys go up to 2020. You guys are all considered Gen 1 B58s. Now, as far as Gen 2 B58 goes, like I said, it also varies on the model. 2020 Supras plus M340i 2020 plus. 440s is I believe 2021 or 2022 and up. And 2 Series is 2022 and up as well too. You guys are all considered Gen 2 B58s. Now that we have that out of the way, for my Gen 1 guys, your car typically is going to be a bench unlock, catless downpipe, and a high pressure fuel pump. That will net you about 500 wheel horsepower. Gen 2 guys, what you guys are gonna need to do is a catless downpipe, bench unlock, and a tune, OTS map. Now, if you're a 21 plus model Gen 2 B58 owner, you're going to need to femto unlock your car. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody's heard about it at this point. Femto is you ship out your DME to Finland and they have it unlocked. That way you can actually tune your car. To kind of break it down a little bit more into detail, there are technically 4 softwares, but we don't talk about the 4th one because I believe that's MG Flasher. Nobody really uses MG Flasher, and I think that's just for Gen 1 guys. But there are 3 softwares out there right now that you can use to tune your B58. There is MHD, BM3, and xxxx. xxxx is probably one of the best ones that you can go with at the moment. During this video is being recorded at the moment, which I feel like it's going to be like that for quite a while. MHD Plus is actually really good as well too, and BM3 is also really good. My car is currently tuned, the M340i is currently tuned on BM3. So from that point, me personally, I think what is best for these cars is, or what's lacking the most on these cars, is the fuel system. If you're trying to make anything more than 500, in my opinion, the fuel system is the next thing that comes up on the list. You can go, there's 2 ways you can go about it. If you're looking to make anything around 750 roughly, in my opinion, you can go with upgraded DI injectors and go with a bigger high pressure fuel pump, which will help you get to that 750 range with the upgraded turbo, and be reliable. If you're trying to go with anything more than that and keep it safe, in my opinion, you want to go port injection. Also keep in mind this, both in my opinion, this is all my opinion when it comes to the fuel stuff, because there's multiple ways you can go about this. You want to upgrade your low pressure fuel pump. There's a lot of options out there. I personally recommend you stay with your stock pump along with an extra pump that's added onto it. So like a 525, there's a couple of options out there that gives you that, you know, that option to do that. That's my personal recommendation. There's like, in my opinion, you don't want your pumps to fail, especially your OEM one. It's detrimental to the motor. I've seen a couple of guys that replace that pump and something happens to the pump and it fails and your car's toast. But next thing, to make power between 600 to, I want to say 750 roughly, you have a couple options here. You can go with a hybrid turbo, which is stock location and stock frame on your turbo with a bigger core. That can net you around the 600 plus to 750 range safely. You can go more, which we will get into that later. You can go with a upgraded turbo, like full frame turbo, like Precision, Garrett, PSR, or Pulsar, etc., with a bottom mount or a top mount kit. Now, it comes down to your personal preference and what kind of goals you have as far as power goes. you're typically capped around there for stock motor and stock trans. There's some people that push it a little bit, can make 800 up to 1,000, but it all depends on what turbo you're going with, the fuel system you have, if you have upgraded cams, etc. But we're gonna try to keep it as simple as possible, and I'm gonna tell you what I've seen worked and what is reliable. Any one of those turbo options, plus the fuel system you have, either you go with the upgraded DI side, or if you go with the port injection, that will net you about 750, plus maybe close to 800 on a stock motor, stock trans. Now, with that being said, it is very, 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 very highly recommended at this point that you do an upgraded transmission as well too. Now, the reason being is that around 650 torque to 700, your transmission is gonna start slipping. If it's not slipping now, it's going to slip eventually. There's a couple options out there that you can look into. We personally are running the ATS Stage 1 trans, which are just the upgraded clutches, no billet E-hubs or anything like that, because we do mainly just primarily road race the car. And there's a couple, like I said, there's a couple more options out there. You can go with the upgraded transmission, you can push the limits of the car a little bit more, and you'll be solid. Now, also another thing to keep in mind, as far as supporting mods goes, if you are running an upgraded turbo setup, either it's being a hybrid, bottom mount, or top mount, it is very highly recommended that you go with a upgraded catch can system, or if for my, okay, so let me rephrase that. Gen 1 guys, you guys are notorious to having your diaphragm on your PCV tear, so which causes your car to look like it blew up. Ross Race has a very, very, very high quality kit that deletes your PCV system that prevents that from happening ever again. Now, if you're going with a big turbo kit, like this, we're talking like upgraded turbo kit at this point, highly recommend you get your PCV done with Ross Race. They have a kit out there that's really good, along with getting a proper catch can setup. Anything at this point forward, in my opinion, requires it, because you do not want to have that crankcase pressure buildup in your valve cover, because you are going to crack it. My Gen 2 B58 guys, personally, we are running a Radium dual catch can. In my opinion, I love it. It's a really nice kit. It's very seamless. You don't really see it from up top, and you know it's there. And it works. Here's another thing that we have for our car for the Gen 2 B58 guys, is that we have a PCV block off pin, or there's another option out there for PCV check valves. And Visconti tuning has one that replaces your valve cover completely, so you just take it off, throw it on. It's pretty convenient. The PCV block off pins, you take off your valve cover, you put the pins where your PCV is at, and it blocks it off, and you put your valve cover on. And the check valve, on the other hand, you put that inside your OEM you put that in your OEM valve cover, which then there's a ball that goes up and down that closes your PCV system whenever pressure is built up. And it still retains the OEM drivability of the car, or not drivability, OEM PCV flow, I guess you could say. Very recommended, in my opinion, with any turbo upgrade at that point. Now, another thing that not a lot of people usually talk about, or people do talk about, is your intake manifold. My Gen 1 B58 guys, your car has the design on your intake manifold isn't as, I guess, as good compared to the Gen 2s. So around 35 PSI, I believe, is where your intake manifold will probably and potentially crack, depending on, you know, a lot of different parameters, heat cycles, how many miles you've had on it, how hard you beat it, etc. You can get this is all subject to change depending on each car and how it's driven. So upgrading an intake manifold has a lot of its benefits as far as IATs and how much PSI you can go with. We ran on a stock manifold up until I think around that PSI range, and we upgraded our manifold for dual purposes, better IATs, and to be able to run more boost and not have to worry about our manifold cracking, because it can be very detrimental to your motor if it cracks. You don't want any material to go inside of your intake runners along with any coolant, because if you do crack it, we are a water to air manifold setup turbo car. So I worded that very weird, but you don't want coolant to go into your intake runners because it will destroy your car. So that is also something that is highly recommended around this 600 to 700 range roughly. It's recommended, not needed. Now, if you are planning to go further around 800 plus, it is at that point, in my opinion, it is mandatory for you to get an intake manifold, a catch can setup, and a proper fuel system. Now, when I say a proper fuel system, going back to what I was mentioning before, as far as the DI side of things goes, you're typically capped, in my opinion, from what I've seen and what I recommend and what I feel comfortable telling people, you're typically capped on the DI side. You want to run port injection at that point. So there's a couple options out there that you can run a port injection plate, or you can go with the intake manifold, which they typically do come with a port injection rail, 1050cc injectors, upgraded low pressure fuel pump, and for what we use the Motive Reflex Plus. That is going to manage your port injection, well, not your port, yeah, it's going to manage your port injection. There's a couple of other things that it manages as well too, which is very beneficial. Your boost pressure through your wastegates, and the low pressure when it kicks on, and etc. It also, there's a couple of other accessories that you can add onto your Motive Reflex as well. And now when you're at around the 700, or not, sorry, the 800 plus to 900 wheel horsepower range, you are probably going to eventually want to build your motor. I would definitely plan ahead to have it done. You can go with what we did, which is the upgraded rods and pistons, along with head studs and Firelock head gasket and valve springs. At that point, if you do decide to go upgraded cams, it is very beneficial at that time to do it because your motor is already probably apart to have a motor rebuild. Now for the Gen 2 guys, I know if you're like a A90 Supra guy, you're probably gonna wanna go maybe to a 6-port head. Now is a good time for you to go find a 6-port head to swap the head along with a exhaust manifold that matches it. As far as whenever you're going with the upgraded turbo, to make anything over 900, in my opinion, safely to where nothing is stressed out and you're not running anything to its absolute limits, you want to go with a better upgraded low pressure fuel system at this point, along with a bigger turbo. In my opinion, running a 6870 should be able to get you to that 1,000 wheel horsepower mark with the built motor and whatnot, and you should be fine there. If you want to try to go with a little bit more power, you can go with a 7275 or something similar. Now, I would assume at this point, making around 900 plus, you kind of have an idea of what all you need to do and what is recommended to yourself. I would assume you probably have already done your research, but this video is honestly mainly for anybody that wants to keep the car stock motor, stock trans. So like I was mentioning before, a lot of the stuff that's mentioned before is interchangeable all the way up to the 1,000 wheel horsepower mark. And personally, I've actually gone through it technically with the A90 Supra, and I just want to kind of inform and let everybody know what's going on as far as, you know, what to make. Me personally, that's kind of what the route that I went. We had first went with the catless downpipe, do E50, made 500, went full E85 with port injection and the low pressure fuel pump with flex fuel and whatnot, and we were on Ecutech, and that made maybe closer towards 600, not exactly 600 on stock turbo. From there, went with the upgraded turbo kit, ran a 6466, made on our old M340i, we made, I believe, 760 and 711 torque on stock motor and stock transmission. The transmission was not happy. It eventually started slipping, but that car decided to off itself. So we ended up getting an A90 Supra instead, which made a little bit more sense as far as like what purpose we had it for as far as roll racing went. And then from there, we had we had thrown everything from the M340i onto the Supra. So from there, we went with the built transmission and a intake manifold. And from there, we ran it as much as, as much as we wanted, essentially. Had a blast with it and bent 4 rods. So actually, to be honest with you, the car probably had 4 bent rods since we got it tuned in August. That was due to a very bad design catch can that we had from another shop. Instead of releasing crankcase pressure, it was actually putting pressure back into the intake manifold, which is back into the chamber, and it bent 4 rods, and we were racing and whatnot with 4 bent rods, and it still put in work. So, but that is my take on what you can do to make certain power on your B58. To kind of just summarize it real quick, 500 catless downpipe, E50, and a high pressure fuel pump for my Gen 1 guys, and 600 to 700, I guess somewhere between there. You want to go with an upgraded turbo, hybrid, bottom mount, top mount. You can go with almost anything, any size turbo, and make around that range. Somewhere along there, you want to upgrade your fuel system. Like I had mentioned, personally for me, it would be catalyst downpipe, fuel system, and then turbo. Port injection or the DI route, which is fine. S58 injectors with upgraded, like, you know, Dorch high pressure fuel pump. Or you can go the PI route, 1050cc injectors, upgraded low pressure fuel pump, which is a hang pump. Essentially, it's an add-on to your canister. And then from there, if you want to make anything more from that, definitely go with a built transmission. Once you have a built transmission, it's also recommended for you to get a intake manifold. That's both for my Gen 1 and Gen 2 at this point. Upgrade intake manifold so that we can hold that PSI and not have to worry about cracking your manifold. And anything more than that at that point, you want to try to go with a bigger turbo along with building your motor. Upgraded cams can come, in my opinion, once you are at that stage. It really isn't too necessary unless you're trying to go with some certain record of, like, you know, stock motor or stock turbo. Then you can go with the upgraded cams at that point. But anything more than that, built transmission, built motor, go with a decently sized turbo, maybe something that's like a 72 millimeter or bigger. On BM3, on EcuTech, on MHD Plus, motor reflex, and you'll be able to hit each one of those goals pretty easily, reliably as well too, from what I've done and what I've personally have gone through. Also, another thing, just a PSA, I guess. Do not go with an intake. It honestly is just for noise. If you do want to go for an intake for noise purely, that's totally fine. But an intake on a hybrid turbo or a stock turbo won't net you much power at all. These intake setups from factory for these cars are honestly the best as you can get. So if you want the noise, go ahead. Make sure you don't get one that's an open box where hot air can still get sucked in. You want an enclosed box if possible. MST makes a good one. Arma Speed, Eventuri, any of the ones that are closed box will be very beneficial for the car because you're able to help you with your IATs and whatnot. But I'm gonna probably do this at the end of the video, but I'm gonna add like a kind of like a breakdown on kind of like a graph on what all you need in order to make certain power reliably and safely. And also, this is all subject to change depending on which tuner you go with, what product you go with as well too, because it's just to kind of give you a general idea on what you need to do in order to make that certain power goal. But yeah, with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and it's informative. If I did miss something or you have any questions, please let me know. You can comment down below on the YouTube video, or you can message me directly on Instagram at Boosted Race Lab, and I will answer as many questions as possible for you. I do currently, at the moment, which by the time this video is up, it's probably not gonna be there anymore, but at this moment, I do have a, I guess like a thread on IG where it's like, ask me a question. If you wanna run in there and then throw something in there, that'll be beneficial to the both of us, I guess you could say. So yes, with that being said, I'm gonna end the video here for the B58 platform. I will go back and do like a S58 one. As like I was saying before in the very beginning of this video, I'm not super knowledgeable over the S58 platform, but I have a very good idea on what all you need to make certain power. Plus, especially since that car is so easy to make power. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. This one's a little lengthy compared to the other ones, but hopefully it's informative for you guys. I will probably try to add pictures of everything that I've mentioned in the build itself. Some of them are personal ones, some of them will be maybe screenshots from on the website. And yeah, so hopefully it is informative and you guys learned something today, and just let me know if there's anything else you guys are wanting to watch. So until then, I'll catch you guys later and you guys have a good one.